Hello, my little Luxes. Welcome back to another Luxy Charms, and I'm your host, charsieluxxx. It just doesn't feel like I can talk today. And you know what? Whatever. We do what we can here. It's always all over the place. I accept it. I'm fine with that because that is what I'm like in my everyday life anyway, so.
I'm a little bit of la 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 la, a little bit of Lexus.
But today is not a movie review, it's not a ghost story, it's also not a vlog, but I wanted to do something that was going to be fun for me to do and for you as well that is related to Halloween. And today I'm going to be talking about 31 different movies that can work perfectly for Halloween season. So, kind of in line with 31 days of Halloween, and everybody has a different way that they're celebrating it, talking about spooky season. And of course, a lot of people know that on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays, that I have a 60-day countdown. Wow, I really can't talk. A 60-day countdown of cosplay photo shoots that I've done throughout the years, and that I'm just basically posting a different fun costume that I've done and just doing a countdown until Halloween. So, on here, I wanted to talk about 31 different films, not all horror related, because obviously, here on my channel, I like to talk about horror themed things, but this will also include just movies I've watched throughout the years that just are perfect for Halloween. No, I don't think my orange light is close enough. Let's get that in a little more. I just want the orange light on me because, Halloween, pumpkins. Well, and I was smart this time and I actually set myself up so you could see my cute Halloween shirt with my kitties and the jack-o'-lanterns and all that. But anyway, let's jump into it. Let's start talking about these different movies that I have to watch every Halloween season. And I'm not just gonna put it out like it's 31 days of a different movie that you watch in preparation for Halloween. Most of the time, I watch these in marathons, where usually it's about over the weekend, you watch about 2 or 3 movies in a row type of deal, where you've got your popcorn, you're comfortable, the usual when it comes to a movie night. But I also, of course, will want to hear your favorite films that you love to watch for Halloween and that. And like I said, not all of these are horror related. Now, the other thing that I'm also going to include, that just because that I'm starting off with number 1 to 31, these are not in any particular order of being from favorite to least favorite. We're not doing a ranking. These are literally just a list of movies that I must watch for Halloween. And I realized that 31 is not enough because I could go on and on and on for this list. And it can change every season as well. But there are certain ones that I must include for Halloween or even watch on Halloween day. But we'll kind of get into it. I don't think I'm going to give like a full detail of each movie. I think I'm just going to do a list and just kind of talk about them, give a general reason maybe why. Let's see. Let's just kind of go with the flow on this one. Anyway, trailing off again, let's get to the list.
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
Now, this one should not be a surprise whatsoever, but John Carpenter's Halloween from 1978. Like I said, this should not be a surprise, and this is kind of the beginning of the slasher genre around this point in time. I mean, we had slasher films, but there was a huge influx of slasher films, and Michael Myers became a staple in people's lives for loving and enjoying slasher films. And of course, it takes place on Halloween. Kind of following in the same idea, because this is another John Carpenter film, and the 1982 film The Thing. Now, this is one of my top favorite horror films of all time, and I have to watch it during holiday season as well. Well, I mean, I guess Halloween's a holiday as well. During Christmas time as well, just because of snow and having that kind of theme. But this is also a nice one to watch for Halloween as well. And because it's one of my favorites, I have to watch it for spooky season. Now, technically, this next one, you can include the original, but generally, I love the remake from 1988, The Blob. So you can watch the original one as well. That one is perfect for Halloween, but I enjoy watching the newer one. And it's weird because I'm surprised nobody's tried to remake this one again too, because that seems to be the theme that people are doing. Although now that I've said that, we'll probably see in a few years someone trying to make a remake of this one again. You don't need a remake if they were successful in their remake. That's just my personal opinion. Not that my personal opinion ever matters, except to me. But just like The Thing, which is also another remake, most people don't know or realize that, but The Blob is one of my favorite comfort films, one of my favorite horror films. So I have to include it just like I do with The Thing. In fact, The Thing and The Blob are perfect films to watch together. Especially, you kind of need a palate cleanser when you're watching The Thing because it's got that bleak ending. Yes, it's beautiful, it's amazing, but I need that palate cleanser, and usually with The Blob, that one is that fun little twist. It's very much of the time in the 80s, so that is my palate cleanser. This next one is from 1993, and that is Hocus Pocus. Now, this is one of those films where I must watch this on Halloween, because I had mentioned that there were a few that I have to watch on Halloween because of tradition, family tradition on top of that, and Hocus Pocus is one of them. And I know there's a few people out there that just despise that movie. Well, guess what? I'm not one of those people, and this is my channel, so I can talk about Hocus Pocus and how much I love this one. And come on, you got Thackeray Binks, you got this adorable black cat. It was always a childhood dream to have a cat that would outlive me, because you know what, if I had a wish in this world, it would be for my cats to live as long as I do. But like I said, Hocus Pocus was a family tradition that my family had to watch it every year for Halloween. So I carry that tradition on in my own household and will continue that tradition probably until the day I die. This next one is another fun horror film, another one from 1988, and that is Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And we all know how much I love and adore that film. I've done a commentary of that one. I think it's been a couple years since I've done the commentary now. And that one is just a fun one to watch in general. And you'll kind of see a theme with the ones that I tend to watch for Halloween season and that kind of stuff. It's usually the lighthearted ones. Although, according to my mom, Killer Clowns is not lighthearted and is super scary. There's probably a reason why people question if us people who love horror films are okay, but you know, I think we're more sane than most people give us credit for. This next one is from 1991, and this is Ernest Scared Stupid. This is also in line with Hocus Pocus, that this is one I must watch on Halloween. Another family tradition. And Ernest Scared Stupid, when I was a kid, scared the shit out of me. Now, the fun thing to take note for this one is that the trolls from Ernest Scared Stupid were created by the Chiodo brothers, or Kyoto brothers. I probably don't pronounce their names correctly, and I apologize. I think it's Kyoto. But the Kyoto brothers, who created the trolls for Ernest Scared Stupid, mind you, made and created Killer Clowns from Outer Space. A lot of people don't know and realize that the trolls on Ernest were originally the clowns from Killer Clowns in Outer Space. In fact, I think I talk about this. I know several people who have given movie reviews about Killer Clowns have talked about it. So it's kind of fun to match the troll to the clown that they once were, type of idea. Now, this is an older film, 1948, and you have Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Now, this was another family tradition. I don't have to watch this one directly on Halloween, but generally within the same time frame. And what's ironic and interesting is the fact that this was one of the films that they showed at the last drive-in jamboree. So that was really cool to have all those classic horror films up on the big screen at the drive-in, and that this was one of the ones included on it. And this is one of those ones that traditionally I love to watch around Halloween time. Now, this next one is one that me and my husband will both watch for Halloween. My husband is not the biggest horror movie fan, although he claims that. Although 9 times out of 10, if I'm watching a movie and he's sitting there playing a video game, he'll still be paying attention to the movie I'm watching, and as soon as I'm done, he'll commentate on it with me and say, "Oh, that one wasn't that bad." It's like, you could watch these with me. But anyway, so 13 Ghosts is one of my favorite films. I love Matthew Lillard. He's one of the main characters. And this one is a huge tradition to watch for Halloween time. It is just creepy, spooky. It's like an escape room, except it's an entire house, and it's a weird, janky puzzle with 13 really creepy ghosts in this house. So a must watch for Halloween time. And 13 Ghosts, I believe, was from 2001. Now, this next one, I'm kind of gonna lump them together. They're similar, but very different. And that's kind of where I think when remakes are more successful than if they try to just copy and mimic their original counterparts, their original films. The original from 1988, Night of the Demons, which is a movie on Halloween as well, about a group of friends that go to this creepy, abandoned mortuary funeral home and decide to have a Halloween party there, and unfortunately unleash some demons. So that one is a huge tradition to watch. And I also enjoy watching the remake. Now, the remake is from 2009. Now, it is not as good as the original. I will flat out say it's not as good as the original, but I still enjoy it. I still love it. And it's very nostalgic for me as well, because it's very of its time when it was made. And I don't think people give the 1990s and the 2000s, especially the early 2000s, enough credit when it comes to horror. I'm enjoying seeing a lot of rejuvenation of talking about those horror films because they're of their time. And it's nice kind of going back through and seeing history and seeing it along with horror. And it's just a wonderful tradition to add both of them together. Maybe not back to back, but definitely, no matter what, I have to watch the original one. This is another fun one to throw in for Halloween, and it's 2011, The Cabin in the Woods. Now, I didn't realize how old Cabin in the Woods already was. In my head, I keep thinking that it's a very recently made film, but it's like, oh my god, it is over a decade old now. But this is definitely one of those ones added into your roster for horror films, especially for around Halloween season, because you get to see every monster, every creature, every slasher, anything known to man from a horror film will be in this movie. And if you haven't seen it, that's going to be your only little hint right then and there. But anyway, you have to add that one. I mean, you don't have to. I have to. I love this movie, and it's on my list for what I will watch on Halloween. Now, this one is a more recent film, and what's fantastic was this was what we had just recently watched on FFB Movie Night, and it's the 2019 film Haunt. And of course, I had the little facts with it about this was a Halloween film filmed on Halloween, or a movie about Halloween. And it's, of course, a haunted attraction type of film, and then coming to realize that what's going on in this haunted house is happening for real. So this one is, of course, another tradition that I have added to watch during spooky season. So I've already watched it. So perfect to watch with the FFB fam and everything. So then also in line, kind of related to that one, is Trick, which is also from 2019. And this was a film done by Todd Farmer. I love his work. A lot of people think that his films are on the goofier side, but this one I didn't think was goofy. This one, and I even love, in fact, it's going to be another one of his films that I'll be bringing up in a later one. But Trick is one of those that most people just let it fall under the radar. And this one is another one that takes place during Halloween. So I have added this one in, but I love watching it for spooky season. It's definitely underappreciated. I still can't believe that this movie is as old as it is, because in my head it does not feel like this was 20 years ago. It just doesn't feel possible. But from 2003, you have Freddy versus Jason, and I love watching this one for Halloween season. And like I said, it doesn't feel possible that it's that old already. I remember when this came out. I remember going to the theaters with my friends and us being excited to watch this. And I love the nostalgia that I feel for this one with the parties. In fact, it's very Midwest. It definitely feels like the Midwest. So it's just a fun one to add to watch for spooky season. So then the other film that I was going to bring up that was Todd Farmer that's on this list is Jason X. Now, obviously I will have Friday the 13th on here, but this one is not the same, and I don't like lumping Jason X in with the rest of the franchise, and that's usually why a lot of people hate it, is because they try to relate it to the other ones, and there's something special about Jason X. And the kills are magnificent. Like, what more could you want in a horror film than with these sci-fi just thriller and kills? So I watched this one in line with the rest of these on the list. And Jason X is just from 2001, so just a couple years prior to Freddy vs. Jason. So then we come to 1984 of A Nightmare on Elm Street. So of course, if I'm going to be talking about Jason X, and if I'm going to be talking about Freddy vs. Jason, I must also lump in my favorite slasher franchise. And this is where it gets kind of the same, like I had said with Night of the Demons, the whole franchise. Now, traditionally, at least the first one. Obviously, it goes by time frames and what you're feeling and wanting to do for a marathon. But if anything, I have to watch the first film. But you can include the entire franchise for watching during spooky season. So because I wrote that one down, I had to include the 1993 film A Nightmare Before Christmas. So that one, of course, is not a horror film, but I love that one. It's a tradition. That one I don't have to necessarily watch on Halloween. It's kind of interesting that on Halloween, it's not really necessarily always the horror ones. Usually it's the ones that are from my childhood that have been favorite films and the family traditions to watch. So it's kind of ironic to think about it in that way. But yes, I have to watch that one, and I also will watch that one for Christmas time as well. Next on the list is from 2007, the same year I got married, but that one is Trick or Treat. So I love watching that one, and of course, that is a Halloween themed through and through, beautiful. I think I'm going to butcher this word, anthology. I'll type it on here. But, it's several different stories lumped into one film. And each one is done so incredibly creepy and spooky, and it's just colorful and gritty and dark. In fact, there's several different kinds of films that are kind of similar to this one, which are probably inspired originally from Trick or Treat, which, like I said, with Trick or Treat and all that, you could watch any of those movies that are all the different little stories lumped together that are all Halloween related. Now, my next two on the list, I've noticed that both of them are from 1988, so I will just say them both, and that is Beetlejuice and Pumpkinhead. Now, they're not related in any way or form. I mean, anyone who has seen either one. In fact, Beetlejuice would be one of those perfect ones to call a gateway horror. It's not a horror movie, but for a kid, it could be creepy. In fact, when I was a kid, I know it creeped me out, especially that giant sandworm thing. Like, that thing scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. So let me know if that happened to you as well the first time you watched Beetlejuice. And of course, now we have the new one, which I still need to see that one, so I'm sure that will be added on my list at some point. Pumpkinhead is an underrated classic, and I love that one, and that one is perfect to watch. It's a revenge story, and I think it takes place on Halloween. My brain is just like, I'm talking about too many movies right now, and I just put their names down. I didn't give myself little notes because I didn't want to talk too long. But I'm talking too long.
Oh God, outstanding.
This one is from 1999, and this one is another family tradition, and that is Sleepy Hollow. This is another one where I'm looking back on that. I'm like, it can't be that old. There's no way it's that old. It is. Sleepy Hollow is already that old. And of course, you can even take it back to the Sleepy Hollow cartoon, or even telling the story of Ichabod and Sleepy Hollow. That one was a family tradition as well. When my dad would tell scary stories, that was one of the stories that he had told us. One of my scary stories could be me telling that story. It's a classic and it's amazing. Now, this one is a shout out to all of my werewolf, horror themed lovers out there. And Ginger Snaps from 2000, that one is a must for around Halloween season. I love this movie. I only watched it for like the first time here, I want to say within the last 5 years. And it's just one of those movies I've easily fallen in love with. I love the cast in it and everything, so it's a must watch and that's why it's on this list. Then we got from 1998, Practical Magic. So if you love tradition with witches and that kind of stuff, this could be another one included for a gateway horror. It's not a scary one, but it does have little creepy dark tones to it. And anyone who's seen this, you know what I'm talking about, but it's also a very cute story. It's also got a very sad tone to it as well. So, one of those that it at least has its happy little cute ending and everything. Now, this is another family tradition one from 1991, The Addams Family. And once again, when we're talking about the Addams Family, you can include all of them in there, from the whole franchise to the old TV show, all the way to the new one, all the way to Wednesday, all the way to the cartoon. So, yes, you could include all of it. But I'm including the original one that I know and love and grew up with and watched all the time around Halloween season. I'm not sure why I put it so far down on the list, but I have 1980 Friday the 13th. Now, that can include the whole franchise, that can include your favorite ones. And Friday the 13th is such a unique and special franchise when you think about it, because each one kind of has a different tone and feeling. And each one will be more. Like, one might seem more realistic, like the OG one, which Jason's not even the killer, it's his mom. And then you also have the second one, which is Jason rising back, or was Jason dead, and the questionable things. And then each one will become more supernatural as it goes along until you get, I think it's the seventh one, which you can make the joke that it's Carrie versus Jason. So if you're thinking of someone with telekinesis in that, like what Carrie had, which Carrie is another fun one you can watch for Halloween. I don't have that one on my list. Like I said, this list could be very long. But anyway, so Friday the 13th, any of them in there. It's too hard to just pick which one's your favorite and which one's not, but I had to include Jason X on its own because that one I do have to watch around Halloween season. This one is another family tradition from 1966. It's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. That's just an adorable one that my dad would watch with me and my brother every single year, back to back, which ironically they did and showed this at the Jamboree as well, and that's Garfield's Halloween Adventure. So it just kind of became really ironic to me that these old themed cartoons and shows that I feel privileged that my parents, especially my dad, loved the old classics and I was raised on them, that getting to see new people get an appreciation for these. In fact, I think Garfield's Halloween Adventure is free to watch on YouTube, so I highly recommend watching this one. It should be on TV as much as what the Charlie Brown one is because they're both adorable, they're cute. And for me, nostalgic reasons. And the Garfield one, I believe, is from 1985, so that one should be one included to watch for Halloween time. I mean, who doesn't love a good witch-themed movie? So I have The Craft from 1996. Now, this was one of my favorite films growing up, even though it had its dark little tones. It could be scary to me because I wasn't really that old in 1996. But I vaguely remember The Craft being on TV. Like, there were certain films that they would show on TV, and this was one of them. I mean, to be fair, the first time I ever saw Friday the 13th was because it was on TV at one point in time. I mean, obviously they censor things, but that's how I was able to watch The Craft for the first time. So then, within the same year, in 96, you also have Scream. So you can't watch The Craft without watching Scream. Both of these films have very similar tones. So generally, if I'm going to watch Scream, which is superb horror slasher film, and of course, this one takes place around Halloween as well. So you gotta add Scream into your roster if you're going to talk about any of the other slasher films. So if you got Halloween, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, I better have Scream on there as well, because Ghostface is in there. Next one is a more, oh my gosh, it's not technically even a recent one anymore, because now I'm thinking it's from 2015. That's almost 10 years from now. Oh, but anyway, so Hell House LLC, another one that is similar to, well, not completely similar to Haunt, but it's a haunted house attraction that has very strange and supernatural things happening around it. And people go missing or, die. But anyway, it's one of my favorite found footage horror films, so I have to watch this one during spooky season. So then also Ghostbusters from 1984. I love this film. This is one that I grew up on. You could add both of them, the first one, the second one. Obviously, there's the new ones as well. There's the one that I'm just going to completely ignore, doesn't exist. I've never watched it. It doesn't exist. But yes, Ghostbusters. I love watching this one for Halloween season as well. And then last but not least, you have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So Leatherface, he is also another traditional slasher. So you gotta include him in there. I've already watched that one due to the fact since I just did a movie review on it. But I will give one that is also going to kind of be just honorary on the list because I literally just watched this movie for the first time ever last Halloween. And I've heard people talk about it for years. And as a kid, if I would have seen this, I would have loved it. And that is Halloween Town. And Halloween Town is from 1998. Like I said, if I would have seen this as a kid, I would have loved it. I would have enjoyed watching this with Hocus Pocus. So me getting to experience it and watch it for the first time last year, that it just kind of becomes honorary that I'm sure I will end up watching that one as well. It doesn't have the same nostalgic feeling as my other ones because that was a family tradition, but it definitely is an adorable movie to watch. And of course, in spirit of Halloween. But alright, I have probably talked long enough talking about 31 films. I mean, more than 31, technically, if we want to get technical. But let me know what are some of your traditional Halloween films to watch every year. What are some of your favorites? What is your list? But yeah, I just wanted to, like I said, come on here, talk about something, just something lighthearted, something fun. I didn't have time with everything going on right now to do a movie review, do research, or anything like that. But yeah, anyway, thank you so much for joining me once again on Luxxy Charms. And I would love for you to share your favorite films, your spooky season films with me as well. I'm sure a lot on my list match yours. I'm sure you have a lot different ones than what I have on my list as well. Like I said, I had mentioned Terrifier, but that one's not on my list, but I'm sure it is on yours. And once again, thank you so much for joining me on here. And remember, I am the afterlife of the party, but I would love for you to join me in the afterlife of the party. And the easiest way to do that is to come and help support me on my Patreon. And on the screen, you can see a shout out to all of my fellow Patreon members. So thank you so much for joining me on there. And if you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, there will be a link in the description down below. And I want to give a special shout out to all my Ultimate Luxes. So thank you so much to Kurt, Chris Bruner, Bishop, and LJ Christensen. Thank you so much for joining me on there. And thank you for being an Ultimate Lux with me. And always remember to slay, subscribe, like, and always be yourself. And definitely stay spooky, ooky, all those other little kooky things. And I hope you have a wonderful spooky season. Bye.